£1,000. Is that the right move or not? And speaking of pensioners, a report out today calls for, wait for it, means testing of the state's pension. Goodness me, your thoughts? And the UK will become an AI maker, not an AI taker, says Keir Starmer today. You tell me, does this excite you or worry you? And policing looks set to receive a spending boost this week. Good. But who or what is going to pay for that? And it's been revealed today, get this, ladies and gents, I hope you're sitting down, that nearly all the tax paid by nearly 600,000 workers, i.e. the equivalent of the population of Manchester, is being spent on asylum seekers, including their hotels. I wonder, how much longer do you think people will put up with this? Keeping me company tonight, my panel, we've got a lot to discuss. I also want to look at this flotilla as well that Greta Thunberg was on. What do you make to that? So I've got Andrew Griffiths, the Shadow Business and Trade Secretary, and Jonathan Hinder, the Labour MP. But before we get stuck in, let's give you your 6 o'clock news headlines.
Very good evening to you from the newsroom. The top story tonight at 6. More than 3/4 of pensioners will now receive the winter fuel payment as the government makes a major U-turn. Chancellor Rachel Reeves says 9 million pensioners in England and in Wales earning £35,000 or less will get the support this winter, worth up to £300. It comes after over 10 million missed out last year when it was restricted to those on pension credit, a move widely criticised. Tory leader Kemi Badenoch says the Prime Minister should apologise, while Lib Dem leader Sir Ed Davey has welcomed the change. Funding for the £1.2 billion policy will be set out in the autumn budget. NATO chief Mark Rutte has warned Britain and its allies they better learn to speak Russian if defence spending isn't ramped up. In a major speech in London today, he said NATO must commit to spending 5% of GDP, including a 3.5% core defence spend to deter threats from Russia. He called for a quantum leap in military power and warned hope is not a strategy. He says NATO needs 4 times more air and missile defence, plus millions more shells, tanks and medics. Nigel Farage says that Port Talbot's blast furnaces should be fired up once again. On a visit to the Welsh town, the Reform UK leader called for the return of traditional steelmaking, describing it as a long-term goal for Wales. He's setting out his plan ahead of the 2026 Welsh elections, saying it's time to rebuild Britain's industrial backbone.
So I'm here today to say that our campaign for Senedd next May starts in earnest today. We've got a lot to do. We've got to raise money. We've got to find 96 calibre candidates to stand on those lists. And we've got to have a proper campaign plan. And I want to make it absolutely clear. Our aim is very simple. Our aim is to win. Our aim is to win a majority. And our aim as a party is to govern in Wales. And I believe that it is achievable.
Nigel Farage there speaking earlier. Well, secondary school pupils will be taught artificial intelligence under new plans to boost tech education. The Prime Minister says 1 million students will get access to AI learning tools through a £187 million so-called Tech First scheme. It's part of a push to prepare young people for the tech jobs of the future and give them the tools to thrive in a digital world.
With the new Tech First training programme, that's up to 1 million young people trained in tech skills that will be so crucial for their future. That's a £185 million investment embedding AI right through our education system, starting in our secondary schools with subjects like computer science.
The NHS says it urgently needs 1 million regular blood donors to avoid a national shortage. Just 2% of the population currently sustains England's entire blood supply. With stocks so low, officials say a red alert could soon be triggered, risking public safety. The call follows a cyber attack last year that hit London hospitals and pushed services into crisis. There's a critical need for O-negative blood and more black donors to help treat patients with sickle cell. NHS chiefs say donating takes under an hour but can save lives for years. The government is looking at plans to cap how long children can spend on social media, including a 2-hour daily limit per app and a 10 p.m. curfew. The Technology Secretary says the addictive nature of some platforms is under review, but campaigners say action is long overdue. Ian Russell, whose daughter Molly died after viewing harmful content, says only tougher laws will protect young lives. The Online Safety Act passed last year, but key parts are still to be enforced. And in the last half hour or so, we've heard the news that thriller writer and former MI6 agent Frederick Forsyth has sadly died at the age of 86. Best known for The Day of the Jackal, Forsyth transformed the spy novel, drawing on his real-life experiences as a reporter and Cold War intelligence asset. He sold more than 75 million books worldwide, with titles like The Odessa File and The Dogs of War. Despite often claiming he was done with writing, Forsyth published 23 books and left a lasting mark on the thriller genre. Those are the latest headlines for now. I'll be back with you for the news at 7. Now, though, it's over to Michelle.
Thank you very much for that. And hello, everybody. How are you tonight? Of course, I'm Michelle Dewberry. This is Dewbs & Co, keeping you company until 7 o'clock tonight. Alongside me, what a treat, ladies and gents. Not just one new face, oh no, two, both of them. Andrew Griffith, the Shadow Business and Trade Secretary, alongside me, as is Jonathan Hinder, the Labour MP. Good evening, gents. You're both very welcome tonight. As are each and every single one of you at home, what, ladies and gents, is on your mind tonight? You can join the conversation in all the usual ways. You can email me, gbviews@gbnews.com. You can go to the website, gbnews.com/yoursay, or of course you can tweet or you can X me, but your views, of course, are very, very welcome tonight. Now, are you a pensioner? Have you got a pensioner, a parent, a loved one? This whole saga then about the winter fuel payments and what is and what isn't going to happen, we finally have our answer. Let's just listen then, shall we, to some of the goings on today.
We had to make difficult decisions last year. The public finances were in a total mess when I became Chancellor last summer, and we had to take immediate action to get control and get a grip of the public finances. We have been able to do that. We've returned stability to the economy. In the first quarter of this year, our economy was the fastest growing in all of the G7, which now means we're able to make different choices. And that's why today I can announce that this winter, 9 million pensioners will now receive the winter fuel payment.
Yes, indeed. So to be eligible, you've got to have an income of £35,000 or less. What do you think to that, ladies and gents at home? The right decision then or not? Jonathan, your thoughts?
Well, I think the government's right to act. When the voters and indeed backbench MPs send you a message, then it's right to listen and act. I think most people would say the means testing principle when it comes to a benefit like winter fuel allowance is right. We don't want millionaires to be getting this kind of benefit. And, of course, that's one of the reasons why the Treasury have always been so keen on getting rid of it, because it wasn't a very well-targeted benefit. So I think it's right that it's means-tested. It's right that millionaire pensioners won't be getting it. I don't think anyone wants our public funds to be spent on that, and I think the government has come to a reasonable. So how are you going to pay for this then? It's going to cost over £1 billion. Where's that money coming from? Well, obviously we've made difficult decisions in the budget last autumn, and notably raising tax on business very slightly with the employer national insurance. So we have had to raise more money to pay for improved public services, and this will be part of that. But where's it coming from? So are we going to be getting more tax rises then on Wednesday? This is a relatively small number, as it always was. Sure. But where's it coming from? Well, it's going to come from general taxation, which, as I say, we had to make those difficult decisions on in the autumn, most notably with national insurance. So I'm very confident that the government can afford it without putting any stability at risk. Mm-hmm. What do you think to that, ladies and gents? Your thoughts, Andrew?
Well, it's a colossal embarrassment. Look, when governments get things wrong, it's right to change. It's taken this government a very, very long time to change this. And this wasn't part of a normal budget cycle. This isn't one of those sort of tough choices. This is something Rachel Reeves went out of her way in her first statement to Parliament to pick a fight with the nation's pensioners. It's not a huge amount of money, but it definitely, nor is her headroom. So today, on top of all the higher interest rates that people have got, the vastly higher public spending that she's jacked into the economy that we're all going to end up paying for, or our children are going to end up paying for, she's just removed even more of that headroom. So you can be sure that tax rises are coming this autumn. And Rachel Reeves should apologise. This was her measure. Nobody forced this on her. We've had a year of Labour politicians telling us that this is the right thing to do. And today we've got this mother of all U-turns.
Let's look at Nigel Farage then. Obviously, he's wasted no time in responding to that. Long story short, he says the Labour Party are in a blind panic, and he reckons that the U-turn would not have happened had it not been for the pressure of Reform UK. Is that true?
I don't agree with that. I think the means testing principle is right, and it's about finding the right threshold. So the pension credit threshold was always very low. It felt uncomfortably low, and I think that's what the government has now acknowledged with this new threshold, £35,000 per person. If you're under that, you're going to get it. I think that's pretty reasonable. I don't think reform are relevant to this debate at all.
You voted for it, and now you're welcoming the fact that it's no longer happening. I mean, how do you feel about that? How do your constituents think about that?
I support the government at its budget.
But whatever they do.
Well, it's up to MPs to decide on which.
Well, some of your colleagues didn't vote for this. They thought it was the wrong measure. They've been proven right.
Well, I mean, there's a debate to be had about where that threshold is set, and I think it's right that the government has acknowledged it was too low. It's now higher. I think most people will say where it's set now, that's about right. 3/4 of pensioners are now going to get it. So I think everyone who needs it is now going to get it.
So what was it that motivated you then, to Andrew's point, to support that move?
Well, I supported the government at the budget, and I'm not going to vote for Conservative, votes that they call for no reason other than to cause trouble. So it was a decision that was made in the Treasury. It wasn't one I wanted or expected, but I'm absolutely right behind this government, and I think it's made the right decision here.
Do you think it should be means tested?
Yeah, look, the principle of means testing, I think, Kemi, I'm not against. But there's this whole point
so
about...
do you agree with the threshold now?
There's this whole point about what the threshold is, about how you do that without having to force pensioners to be filling in intrusive and challenging tax returns, and how you absolutely safeguard, and this is something that everybody who's looked at this, the Resolution Foundation, the IFS, the people who are hardest to reach with these benefits, the case for universal benefits, is that the people who are hardest to reach, the vulnerable, people who don't have anyone there to look out for them, make sure that they are getting that winter fuel payment.
Do you agree with me?
You've got to have a mechanism to be able to reach that. That's the case for a universal benefit. And the government has gone from one extreme to the other, ripping that away from pensioners, denying them in the middle of the winter, so they should be apologising for that, and then coming back today with a different threshold and a different approach. You can't just crash around like this when you're dealing with people's lives.
So I'm still not sure. Are the Conservatives in favour of universal winter fuel payments, or are they in agreement with the government?
No, I've said very, very clearly that no one's against the principle of means testing, but there's a whole point about how you go about safeguarding the universality of those who want it. And Labour Party's got a long tradition of wanting universal benefits, precisely because it's the most vulnerable that miss out when you apply means testing in a thoughtless way. As I say, what we've seen today is the government crashing around, having dug in. I feel for you. You've spent the last 12 months defending this indefensible measure at the same time that the government were jacking up pay rises for train drivers on $65,000 a year. You were taking people's winter fuel allowance away so that they had a cold winter. Now you've got to come out here, sell completely the different story.
It's not a completely different story. It's saying the threshold was too low.
I think the viewers will decide whether it's a different story or not.
I think the threshold was too low and it's been raised.
Did you feel bad, though? Because if you'd have done this in the summer or in spring or whatever, when the weather was warmer, that's one thing. But doing that and leaving, with pretty much no notice, leaving pensioners frightened, because we covered this story at length. I speak to viewers every single day. So many people were frightened to turn their heating on, and it was a cold winter.
I mean, the decision was made in July. Let's be clear about that.
Yeah,
it was in July, just after the general election.
Do you feel, because when I talked to viewers, they were frightened to put their heating on. They weren't sure what was coming. They weren't sure of impacts of things. They were scared. I can't say it enough. They were scared. And I think actually many people going into this winter, and you can tell me, I don't know, you can tell me what you think to this at home. Do you feel reassured by what's happened today? I text my mum, sorry mum, if you're watching this, and I said to my mum, you know, good news mum, you'll get your winter fuel payments back. And she said, if it happens, there was an element of still not actually believing that that was going to be the case, it was going to remain the case, and actually, if you're cold, you can put your heating on and you can relax a little bit.
Well, most pensioners that I speak to on the doorstep, and I speak to them every week, I was out this weekend, they say to me that they understand the means testing principle, they just think the threshold was set far too low. And a lot of them say to me they personally were not adversely impacted. You know, they didn't feel like they personally needed it, but they were worried about those edge cases just above the threshold, and we've now put that right.
I'm in an island on my own on this panel, ladies and gents, because I am against means testing this kind of stuff, because I actually think that in this country, do you know what? If you go out and you work and you save for your retirement and you graft and all the rest of it, why shouldn't you get a tiny little bit of money back? Why not? You've paid over the odds. You've paid over the odds in your taxation. Why not? Why is there this desperate, it feels to me anyway, why is there this push to punish people that decide to be responsible in their later years?
I don't think that's right at all. I think most people, and if you ask your viewers, I'm sure they'd say the same, would say we don't want multimillionaires to be getting a universal benefit.
But you're not talking about multimillionaires, are you? You're talking about someone that's got an income of £35,000. How is a £35,000 a year income a millionaire?
You're making the case for it to be universal again, and it captures, let's be honest, a lot of very wealthy pensioners who've done very well out of the housing market, and they're sitting on a good amount of money.
It's not their fault that their house
It's not their fault. It's not their fault. I just don't want taxpayers' money to be going on it.
It's been realised if they've bought their house 60 years ago, their house has gone up in value. They've not realised that profit. They're sitting in a house that, you know, unfortunately, when they pass away, their children may benefit from. But I feel in this country that there is a sense of punishing people that try hard to provide for themselves for the future.
I think you'll be in a minority there, Michelle, but happy.
I am, that's what I said. That's how I opened my sentence.
In the country
I said I was in a minority of one. You tell me.
One point you make, which is very important, Michelle, which I don't think this government really understand at all, which is the difference between somebody's wealth perhaps tied up in their house, perhaps that's their pension, and their ability to actually finance things. It's why the government, if we're going to do U-turns, you know, let's now do a U-turn on the family farm death tax, because there's a huge difference between someone having, you know, nominal asset wealth in terms of their tractor, their plant, their barn, the crops in the ground, and what Labour's trying to do in terms of tax that on people's death. I think, I'm sorry, we need a proper debate about how you do these things.
Will we get a U-turn on that farming tax, do you think?
Come on. I'm not going to make government policy here. I highly doubt it. As a backbench MP, I have no more information than you do about it.
Do you think we should have one?
I'm comfortable that we should have tax reliefs to a certain degree for reasonable things like that, but actually having the threshold £1 million seems fair.
What do you think then? Will you be putting your heating on with glee this winter or what? Get in touch and tell me your thoughts. Coming up after the break, artificial intelligence. Do you actually understand what this even is? Some people just say, I don't even get it all. Well, actually, apparently now the UK, we're going to be an AI maker, not, ladies and gents, an AI taker. What do you think to that? I'll see you in 2.
This is our country, and we think it's amazing. From high tea to the high street, we love it all. Even the rain, we like that too. There's nowhere else we'd rather be. That's why we're here to be the fearless champion of Britain, its voices and its values. Because we are GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
Can't help but look at this. I know there's steam coming out of Anne's ears that he would want to change his surname from Mountbatten Windsor to Spencer. I sort of wonder whether it might have been quite a good thing, Richard, if he wanted to do it, in the sense that it creates a line, doesn't it? It's a bit of a red line between him and the royal family.
Well, it certainly is quite extraordinary. I mean, reading this, because Mountbatten Windsor, since 1960, this has been the surname available to members of the royal family, descendants of Queen Elizabeth and Prince Philip. Mountbatten was the surname that Prince Philip took when he became a British citizen in 1947. And of course, Windsor was the brilliant propaganda. This was during the First World War, when the royal family changed their name from Saxe-Coburg-Gotha to the very English Windsor. But this is completely weird. I mean, you wonder whether he thought this or whether, in fact, it was just some idea that he was discussing, because, I mean, for example, Lilibet, and remember the Sussexes play a lot with names, because this was the Queen's personal nickname, and they christened Lilibet in her honour, and supposedly she gave permission. But this has been highly disputed. She would become Lilibet Diana Spencer. Now, I mean, you look at that and bringing back memories of Princess Diana, we know that Prince Harry is devoted to her memory, but this would be extraordinary.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Welcome back to Britain's Newsroom with Andrew and Beth.
Hello everyone, Patrick Christie is here.
I'm Michelle Dewbs, Britain's News Channel.
Access the stories that matter to you. Take the GB News family with you on any device. And as long as you have an internet connection, tune in to GB News anywhere on the planet or beyond. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's News Channel.
Hi there, I'm Michelle Dewberry. This is Dewbs & Co. We're keeping you company until 7 o'clock tonight. I've got not one but two new faces, both of them, of course, MPs tonight, Andrew Griffith and Jonathan Hinder alongside me. Now, tell me your thoughts on that winter fuel allowance. Do tell me as well, is it just me out there that thinks that actually all of this kind of universal means testing, just because you've happened to be smart and savvy, should you be entitled to a little bit of something at the other end or not? I don't mind being on my own if that's the case. But look, let's talk then, shall we, about the future of business, skills, jobs, you name it. Artificial intelligence. Where do you stand on this? Let's take a listen to some of the announcements today.
With the new Tech First training programme, that's up to 1 million young people trained in tech skills that will be so crucial for their future. That's a £185 million investment embedding AI right through our education system, starting in our secondary schools with subjects like computer science.
So you tell me your thoughts. Are you excited about this? Have you got young children at home? Maybe you are a young person. Do you sit there and say, actually, yes, these opportunities are what I want to be learning about? Or are you on the other side where you think, hold on a second, what does all this mean to my job? You're the Shadow Business Secretary. Is this a good thing for the economy, AI?
It can be a good thing for the economy. And look, you know, what is it? It's another form of technology change. So it's like the internet, it's like the semiconductor, it's like many technologies that have helped advance human civilization over decades. And definitely some of its applications, when you look at what we can do now using AI for things like drug discovery, new forms of medicine, healthcare, are definitely in the exciting box. And we'll all know there's some risks as well with any new technology. Some bad people can do bad things. In terms of the government's role, I think the government, as ever, has a role in terms of making sure that the regulatory framework works. Most importantly, that our infrastructure in the UK works well. If you're going to need more data centres, we're going to need proper energy. You can't have Ed Miliband going around trying to turn all the energy off when AI needs lots of energy. We need scientists and wealth creators and investors. And one of the things that's really worried me and is, very discordant with what the Prime Minister is doing is they are chasing millionaires, investors, technologists out of this country. Their savage, prejudiced attack through tax on wealth creators is really, really bad. People are going to Milan, to Miami, to Abu Dhabi. If we are going to be a serious first-rate AI nation, and this is a wonderful country, I mean, there's no reason why we can't do that. We're just sitting here down the road from UCL. We've got fantastic universities. We do still have one of the biggest financial markets in the world. But you're not going to be able to do that if you don't have the skills and the investors to sort of support it. And it really, really pains me. This is London Tech Week. The government should, since we're in the mode for U-turns, they should do a U-turn against their prejudiced attack on non-doms, which, although sounds very remote to people sitting at home, every time a millionaire leaves this country, you've got to find hundreds of other people's extra taxes to replace that. So everybody's tax goes up when these millionaires leave. We don't get the jobs, and we definitely won't get the investment in modern parts of the economy like AI.
Jonathan?
I don't know whether your viewers are going to be happy with Andrew defending the non-dom regime, which essentially means multimillionaires not paying any tax. I mean, is that really
well, they do pay tax. The fact of the matter is this will cost. We shouldn't go down that wormhole.
Not where the country is it?
The fact, independent research by the CEBR shows that this will cost the Treasury money rather than raise it. And it makes sense, because every time they do pay tax and every time they get on a plane, they are taking their share of the health budget, the NHS, their share of the defence budget, and they will be contributing taxes to other economies. So I get that it's not the world's most fashionable thing to do, but sometimes we're in politics to lead and do the right thing.
Do you think they should be taxed?
They are taxed. They already are taxed.
As you and I are, as ordinary citizens of the UK.
Jonathan, they're already taxed as citizens of the UK.
What
we're seeing is one millionaire leaving this country every 45 minutes, 11,000 millionaires a year leaving, and to replace the taxes of those 11,000 millionaires, and it's not just millionaires, to be clear, it's youngsters, it's people who are trying to build a better future for themselves.
But it includes extremely wealthy people, doesn't it?
Of course it does.
Extremely
of course it does. And we should be welcoming people like that.
Lower taxes for multimillionaires.
The Prime Minister today has been hanging out with some of them, but there's fewer here than there were a year ago. And if 11,000 millionaires leave, to say it's more than that, and it's young people as well, but if 11,000 millionaires leave, you need 500,000 more taxpayers to replace the taxes that they would have paid. Now, where are you going to find 500,000? Are you going to immigrate? Are you going to open the doors and have more immigration?
If you want to talk about the Conservative record in immigration, Michelle, we can do a whole segment on that.
We will be doing it at the end of this programme, because, ladies and gents, you won't believe it when I tell you how much money we are spending on asylum costs in this country. I won't be sitting down for that one. But let's just bring it back to AI then. Is this the future? Anyone that's sitting at home now that's got younger kids or grandkids or whatever that think, actually, what does Britain look like for those young people I love? Is it AI?
Well, actually, before Andrew went down the rabbit hole of defending tax breaks for multimillionaires, I was actually agreeing with him. Because I do think AI is an opportunity, but we actually really do need to think about what do we want it to do. Let's not let it happen to us. Let's not let Silicon Valley dictate what is going to happen. Let's think about, where does this fit into our economy? What do we want it to do? What don't we want it to do? If it can get rid of that stultifying admin that we're all familiar with, that clogs up our public services, then absolutely, we should be doing it. And it's a big opportunity to invest in areas of the country which perhaps haven't got the best job opportunities. Perhaps we can have AI colleges in parts of the country like mine in Lancashire, which have been starved of public investment for so long. So fantastic job opportunities, yes, absolutely. But let's have a serious debate about what we want this technology to be. Because I feel like, I've got to sound a bit of a cautionary note on this, because for decades we've been told, technology, the future, it's going to make us richer. We're all going to be living a life of luxury. Well, we're not, are we? So let's think really hard. What do we want this to look like? So I think it's right that the government gets ahead of it.
But AI is not going to sit and wait for politicians to think really hard about what they want to do.
That's why I'm glad the government's getting ahead of it.
Yeah, and this is a point I put to you. AI is not just suddenly become a thing since these guys came into power. No. And I was listening to the Tech Secretary earlier on, and one of the things that he was saying is that essentially he came in with nothing, that the Tories, he reckons, had done nothing in this sector.
I mean, no fair-minded person would possibly say that. I mean, governments have successes and failures. I think one of the clear successes of the previous government was its leadership on AI, the formation of the AI Safety Institute, literally, and as the Science and Research Minister, I was involved in this, as was others, literally hundreds of millions that we put into AI PhDs, AI research, paving the way for the sort of data centres that AI need. I missed that if he said that, but I think he's a better man than to say that. Of course, you've got to keep moving things forward. The settlement I've seen today, or that was, I think, briefed out over the weekend for the science and research budget, actually has nothing like the same level of growth and ambition than it did under the last government. So, you know, I've said the last government didn't get everything right, and I certainly didn't agree with everything they did either. But I think a fair-minded person, you know, the track record on AI, on technology, is very strong.
And, you know, many people will wonder, we touched on this briefly a second ago, in terms of the energy resource that's required for some of these data centres and beyond. Is this incompatible with the current government's obsession with net zero?
We absolutely need cheaper energy. We need clean, green energy. And that is why I'm absolutely behind the government in saying we need a new fleet of nuclear power stations. We need small modular reactors. You know, the Conservatives talked a good game on this stuff and nothing happened. So that is exactly why we need to go for low carbon options. We need to go for nuclear big time. But we also are a windy island. So let's go in on that as well. Offshore and onshore wind. The Tories banned onshore wind. We've got it going again. Solar farms, absolutely. All of this should be part of the mix.
You haven't built a single onshore wind turbine. I mean, this is just rhetoric. So the rhetoric is good, right? Supporting what we were already doing on the nuclear pivot, but at the same token, you're driving up the cost of energy as a point of
we haven't built a nuclear
fact,
power station for decades.
Which of the top 20 economies in the world has the highest cost of industrial energy?
We've got very high industrial energy.
High.
That's why we need to get it down. Absolutely.
But Ed Miliband is going around making it. Ed Miliband is going around making it worse.
They're in this strange position.
He's turning off the North Sea, which has 3.3 trillion barrels sitting under our feet of cheap, secure energy. Yes, we can transition over time to new forms, but the first nuclear power station that could possibly be built won't be done for another 20 years.
But that's the argument
AI
that was
future is being made now.
That's the argument that was made by the Conservatives and Nick Clegg when you were in coalition with the Liberal Democrats to say, don't do it, it's going to take a long time. Well, by that measure, you wouldn't build anything ever, would you? So now is the time to go for nuclear.
For sure. But now is not the time. Now is not the time to be turning off the North Sea.
I don't understand the Conservatives' position on green energy. You know, they were all in for net zero. That was, you know, the real lodestar of Boris Johnson. He was going to lead the world in all that. And Theresa May was really into it. James Cleverly, perhaps the leader of the Conservatives soon, talks about it all the time. But then when it comes to what the government is actually doing, they say, oh, well, not like that. I'm very confused by the Conservatives' approach.
What's the brief answer to his confusion, then?
Well, there's no one more confused about energy policy than Ed Miliband. He is literally preventing us exploiting energy resources that sit under our feet. Everybody, including the International Climate Change Committee, say that if you have to make this progress, you should do it as a transition. But Red Ed is being an energy vandal, and we have, as a point of fact, the highest energy costs of any competitor nation that we are trying to compete with. So when these AI guys come along and they try and look at where they can build a data centre, data can flow anywhere, the world is interconnected, the UK is deeply uncompetitive as a result of our high energy costs. There are actions that the government could take today.
Who's responsible for
Red Ed Miliband,
in the last 11 months?
Who is turning off exploration in the North Sea under our feet.
Well, you'll have strong opinions on that one at home. Many of you are getting in touch, and there's not a lot of love coming through for AI. I've got to tell you this. One of my viewers says, this is all slowly but surely going to shrink the workforce. It's going to reduce jobs for people to earn. It's ultimately going to put more people on benefits. So the economy may need a complete overhaul if this continues. I think you're edging towards questions about universal income there. Susan says, Michelle Shaw, AI, fine, but it's not going to teach children to be carpenters, cleaners, electricians, plumbers, blah, blah, blah. What happens to all the manual jobs, she asks. And one of my other viewers says, Michelle, AI in schools is very bad. The children will not be using their own brains to work out and solve problems. But one of my viewers says, what are you all talking about? Don't you all realise that most kids use ChatGPT and the rest of it to do their homework already? I hear you, I hear you. Look, coming up after the break, ladies and gents, I want to talk to you about policing, and I want to talk to you about the eye-watering sums of money that we, you, all of us taxpayers are now spending on the asylum system in this country. How long will people continue to tolerate that?
Ready to soak up that holiday sunshine?
Won't we need some cover?
No worries. All sorted.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello there. It's looking fairly settled across much of the Mediterranean as we go through the next couple of days, turning increasingly hot, especially for parts of Italy. For Iberia and the Canaries, we could just see a few showers around, but plenty of sunshine around too. But as I mentioned, for much of the central parts of the Med, lots of sunshine around, turning increasingly hot here. For parts of Rome, could see highs reaching the mid-30s as we go through the course of the week. And for much of the Med, really, as you can see, plenty of sunshine around.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hi there and welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. It's been a damp day across northern parts of the UK, and that cloud and rain tends to sink south during the next 24 hours, with clearer skies following from the north during Tuesday. But for the time being, there's a lot of cloud in the north, with this area of low pressure and these weather fronts moving through. Some heavy bursts of rain for a time during the evening across central and southern Scotland, Northern Ireland, and then into parts of northern England and Wales as this weather system moves through. Later in the night, the rain turns more patchy and generally lighter, although a lot of drizzle remains, particularly over western hills and coast, because extensive low cloud remains. Some cloud breaks towards the north, where it will be a fresher start to Tuesday for parts of Scotland and Northern Ireland, and a brighter start with some sunshine in places, but it's certainly not going to be bright through southern England, Wales, the Midlands, East Anglia. Extensive low clouds, mist and murk around, and some patchy light rain and drizzle. Come further north into northern England, Scotland and Northern Ireland, we could see already the skies brightening, the cloud breaking up, sunshine coming through. But for northern Scotland, further showers will be moving briskly through on a northwesterly breeze. Those showers will tend to become fewer and further between into the afternoon, and actually across Scotland, Northern Ireland, much of North Wales, northern and central England will see the skies brightening and the sunshine return. But towards the south, we keep a lot of cloud and some patches of drizzle here and there well into the afternoon. Nevertheless, 23 Celsius there in the southeast, high teens generally elsewhere. But by Wednesday, the cloud has mostly disappeared, although some cloud remains across the south coast and some western parts. Sunshine elsewhere, and with that sunshine and more of a southerly airflow, we're going to see temperatures rise. In fact, what will be most notable is the rising humidity later this week, which could spark some thundery downpours.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good evening, this is the latest AI travel news from gbnews.com. Motorists on the A30 westbound between the A375 and the M5 should be cautious due to lane restrictions from a broken down vehicle. The M20 westbound in Kent between junctions 7 and 6 is delayed after a collision with one lane closed. The A1M southbound between junctions 41 and 40 in Wakefield has 15-minute delays. In Greater London, the M25 anti-clockwise at junction 29 has issues from a broken down vehicle, but is expected to improve shortly. And on the trains, Chiltern Railways faces major disruption between High Wycombe and Aylesbury, while cross-country's industrial action may affect journeys. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Hello everybody, welcome back to Dewbs anchor Michelle Dewberry, Andrew Griffith and Jonathan Hinder alongside me tonight. I've got to say thank you Thank you, sensible people. There are at least a few of you, not many, I grant you that, but a few of you that are with me on winter fuel and whether or not it should be means tested at all. My view is just let people have a little bit more back. If you've contributed a lot in tax, why not, eh? Amanda says, Michelle, what happens next year if the economy gets worse again? Are they going to take this winter fuel back off us again? Is that going to be the thing that politicians start to play with? Michelle, she's been in touch and said, I think Nigel Farage is right, and I do believe that the winter fuel U-turn has only occurred because of Reform UK. Keep your thoughts coming in. Let's talk policing. We talk about law and order, don't we, often on this programme? Well, I think this is good news because policing is expected now to receive an above-inflation funding increase in the spending review. You used to be a police officer.
Yeah.
I respect that. I like people that go out on the front line. I think it's a very difficult job. Have we got our priorities right when it comes to policing in this country? It's welcomed. Many of my viewers will welcome extra spending for them. Is it going to be effective? Are police chiefs going to have their hands tied still, or what? What's the future like?
Well, I think we actually need a broader debate about what we want policing to be. So, as a police inspector during the last Conservative government, I saw what happened. And it's not just about the fact that funding was cut by 20%. We lost those 20,000 officers until Dominic Cummings realised this probably wasn't a very good idea, and they quickly about-turned in 2019. But it's actually about the demands on policing, which have changed completely in the last few decades. So sexual violence, domestic violence, these things were really not police priorities 30 years ago, and now they are rightly core business. And so the demand profile of policing has really changed. It's not about those traditional neighbourhood crimes as much, although that's incredibly important. It is about that hidden harm, that really high harm set of offences. And I don't think we've really adapted to that. So we need a really broad discussion in this country about what do we want the police to do and what do we not want the police to do. And I think it's really important that as part of these discussions that we've been having, that there is momentum to actually reform the police in terms of its role, in terms of the back functions, etc. So I'm really pleased we're getting this extra funding. What I want to see as a former police inspector is a really big national debate about where do the lines of policing get drawn, where do other public services come in? Because I spent a lot of time dealing with mental health cases, as you mentioned. I spent a lot of time dealing with children missing from care homes. Who've been looked after by the state, in and out of care homes, the risk passed on to the police. And, of course, lots of online crimes now, of course. That's where the demand has completely changed. So we really need to reorientate.
Come off it. It's not like the demand has changed for these online crimes. It's about police bosses now pushing this kind of obsession with what people tweet.
That's a different matter. I'm very happy to talk about that. What I'm saying is, when it comes to domestic abuse, sexual violence, serious violence indeed, there is a huge amount of material which is generated online, and that's all part of the evidence base when you're building cases. So while it's fantastic because we can make efficiencies in terms of the way police deal with crime, respond, investigate, prosecute, actually it also creates a lot of work as well. So I think we really need a big debate, and I'm really glad the government does seem to be grasping the nettle in terms of police reform.
Andrew?
Look, no blank cheques. I want to see the numbers. I don't trust this government as far as I can throw them on numbers, I'm afraid. But I will agree with Jonathan about a lot. The one thing you've got to have, you can't will the ends and not will the means. So we want more police. We want them on our streets. I don't think we need a national debate. We know what we want the police to...
Why did you cut loads of them then?
Well, we didn't. In the only government I was part of, it actually increased police numbers by 20,000.
To try and restore ones that had already been cut, no?
Let's move on. The only government I was part of increased the police numbers by 20,000. We've got to pay the police, and we've got to pay them properly for the important job they do. I don't think we need the big, long, drawn-out discussion about what we want the police to do, because we want them to apprehend burglars, we want them to take thieves off our streets, we want to police our cities, and that's going to get life back into our high streets. I think intuitively people know the sort of policing that they want to see. They certainly don't want them spending time looking at Facebook and spending a lot of time devoted to that. They don't want them actually doing a whole bunch of costly work on DEI and getting involved in the latest fashionable cause. Now, if the government's properly funding this, so much the better. But we're going to find out on Wednesday and always look at the small print. Probably true of most governments, in fairness, but always look at the small print. Are they really going to be getting more money for police?
Very, very quick response if you want.
Well, I think Andrew's very good to basically disavow the first 10 years of the last 14 years of government.
It just wasn't there. I'm not disavowing it. It just wasn't there.
At the same time, the Conservatives want to take credit for having put those officers back and the funding back, so it's got to be one or the other, really. They made a complete pig's ear of it.
What do you think to it all? If anyone was watching Martin Daubney's show just literally before mine, you would have seen that lady who got her car stolen, contacted the police. There was no help for them whatsoever, it seems, so she had to go and get her own car back. Do you think we've got our priorities right when it comes to law and order in this country? Also, speaking about priorities, ladies and gents, sit yourself down nice and comfortable, because you will not believe how much money we are now spending when it comes to asylum in this country. I'll see you in 2.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently. It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it? It's explosive. I mean, this is very good. It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial. And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born. It's everything you need to kickstart your evening. Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it. That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
What is the state of our economy? What is the state of our National Health Service? What is the state of our schools?
What on earth is going on?
Understanding Britain means understanding the state we are in. This is State of the Nation with me, Matt Goodwin, Wednesdays, Thursdays and Fridays from 8 p.m. on GB News.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
We're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel, and as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello everybody, welcome back to Dewbs and Kerr. Alongside me, Michelle Dewberry, I've got Andrew Griffith, the Shadow Business and Trade Secretary, and Jonathan Hinder, the Labour MP. Joe, one of my viewers, says, Michelle, just want police to prevent crime, not to spend so much time monitoring social media. And Joe says, Michelle, I honestly cannot remember when I last saw a police officer walking down our street. I don't know where you live, you didn't tell me where you live. And Tina says, Michelle, you just need to go back to basics. All all shoplifters of any value, basically. I think she just wants to see them getting arrested. Start with the small stuff. Can we start with littering then as well, please, and try and instill a bit of pride in our communities? I'd definitely celebrate that one. But look, we talk about priorities and we talk about money, don't we? Well, look, ladies and gents, in this country, are you sitting down? Because I did tell you need to be. The annual bill now for looking after migrants, the asylum costs and so on, £4.7 billion a year. That is the equivalent, if you took about 600,000 workers, so essentially the population of somewhere like Manchester, and took their tax. It is that kind of money that we are talking. I mean, where do we even begin with this one, ladies and gents? Jonathan, your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so, I mean, the situation that we inherited from the Conservatives was absolutely dire. It's one of the main reasons why they lost the general election. So it's up to this Labour government now to sort this out.
Yeah.
Everyone can see that it's completely unfair.
Yeah.
And the voters have been sending us quite a clear message on immigration, both legal and illegal, for about 20 years now.
Yeah.
And Westminster has not been listening. And if this Labour government doesn't listen, then the same fate might come to us that came to the Conservatives. So I would say we need to remove every legal obstacle that gets in the way of us solving this problem. Now, I'm not a legal expert.
So you would, for example, leave the ECHR and things like that?
We can have all sorts of discussions as to whether we can do that under the current arrangements or not. But what I would say is people are tired of hearing politicians say it's all very difficult. The law says this. Well, we are Parliament. We can change the law. It is up to us. So I think the government understands that. It's made some progress when it comes to returns, when it comes to enforcement action. Obviously, we had the Boris wave of legal migration. It's now coming down.
Yeah, but these small boat crossings, they're more than 40% up under your watch, aren't they?
No. I mean, let's be clear.
Yes.
This started in 2018. It's not that amount. But what I would say is that actually we do need to solve this very quickly because it is not fair. And actually, if we had control of our borders, which is what the people want, then we could decide, OK, maybe we're going to have an annual number of refugees that we do take in a controlled fashion, a relatively small number, from other countries. But at the moment, it's that lack of control, which means people are losing faith in democracy. So it's up to Labour, because no one's listening to the Conservatives on this anymore. They've comprehensively failed. It's up to Labour to sort it out.
Andrew?
Look, I'll try and avoid the back and forth because Jonathan's arguments are just not correct. I mean,
that's why you lost the election, isn't it?
Labour said they had a plan to stop the boats. The number of boat arrivals, as a point of fact, is at a record high. We had in place a plan very similar to plans that other European countries are looking at to offshore process in Rwanda. Labour cancelled that plan as the equivalent of unilateral disarmament. It was a plan that would have deterred people.
So if it was so
Labour
good,
continued to pump money to the French.
Andrew, if it was so good, if you believe that Rwanda was so good, why didn't Rishi Sunak see it through then?
Because of Jonathan's lawyer friends. Because
no, he called a general election before a plane had even left.
But what we've got are Labour North London lawyers who've spent a career defending people who try and abuse our immigration and asylum system. The Attorney General, the chief person who's advising the Prime Minister has written letters opposing the deportation of hardened criminals from this country. The culture of... I mean, Jonathan says, good, he's the first Labour MP. He should cross the floor because he says we should do everything it takes to change the legal system. I mean, that's the thing that we've been wrestling with.
I said remove every legal obstacle.
Well, yeah. let's look forward to your support for leaving ECHR, which is the thing that allows people who come here to have a high probability of being allowed to stay because they find one immigration lawyer after another. They convert to Christianity, they change their sexuality, all in order, aided and abetted by our legal system, to give them a very high chance of being able to stay. And as your figures show, we cannot afford this. They're coming from a safe country, France. If each of those small boats were smuggling a small item of French historical artwork, you could be absolutely sure that the gendarmes would stop them coming.
What Andrew's saying, basically, is while the Conservatives were in government, they weren't actually running the country and making the decisions. I actually wrote an article about this a few months ago saying the British government needs to run the country again because we're we've got too many politicians who are saying it's all very difficult and, oh, the legal situation is this exact, you know, all this. That's essentially what Andrew is saying. He's saying, well, we wanted to do this, but actually we were...
Well, you need
we were
to
blocked,
achieve
you know.
that. It's no point
But
just...
you were
Jonathan,
in government.
Jonathan, it's
you were
no
in
point,
government.
and you're in government now, and it's no point...
Absolutely, and
you've got
saying,
a majority, and you could go back to Parliament tonight if Keir Starmer agreed with you about doing everything it takes to change the legal system. Tomorrow, you could bring a bill to Parliament to override, to leave the ECHR or to override the judge's interpretation of that. Now, when we tried to do that, your Labour peers, night after night in the House of Lords, frustrated that, and that's one of the reasons
well, whatever
we weren't
you do,
able
ladies
to get
and gents, whatever you do, don't worry about this issue too much, because you will have seen that Prevent Training thing that was talking about extreme right-wing terrorism, and one of the categories they define is cultural nationalism. If people think Western culture is under threat from mass migration and a lack of integration by certain ethnic and cultural groups. Heaven forbid you have the audacity to think about that, ladies and gents. You'll be getting a knock on the door before you know it. You'll have very strong opinions on that one. But what a disgrace. What an absolute disgrace, ladies and gents, that we need to make all of these cuts. But yet, simultaneously, while you lot can't heat your homes, the men are in hotels. Night, gents. Thank you for your time. I'll see you guys tomorrow.
Heavy showers first thing will be followed by a warm, cosy day. Boxed boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hi there and welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. It's been a damp day across northern parts of the UK, and that cloud and rain tends to sink south during the next 24 hours, with clearer skies following from the north during Tuesday. But for the time being, there's a lot of cloud in the north, with this area of low pressure and these weather fronts moving through. Some heavy bursts of rain for a time during the evening across central and southern Scotland, Northern Ireland, and then into parts of northern England and Wales as this weather system moves through. Later in the night, the rain turns more patchy and generally lighter, although a lot of drizzle remains, particularly over the western hills and coast, because extensive low cloud remains. Some cloud breaks towards the north, where it will be a fresher start to Tuesday for parts of Scotland and Northern Ireland, and a brighter start with some sunshine in places, but it's certainly not going to be bright through southern England, Wales, the Midlands, East Anglia. Extensive low clouds, mist and murk around, and some patchy light rain and drizzle. Come further north into northern England, Scotland and Northern Ireland, we could see already the skies brightening, the cloud breaking up, sunshine coming through. But for northern Scotland, further showers will be moving briskly through on a northwesterly breeze. Those showers will tend to become fewer and further between into the afternoon, and actually across Scotland, Northern Ireland, much of North Wales, northern and central England will see the skies brightening and the sunshine return. But towards the south, we keep a lot of cloud and some patches of drizzle here and there well into the afternoon. Nevertheless, 23 Celsius there in the southeast, high teens generally elsewhere. But by Wednesday, the cloud has mostly disappeared, although some cloud remains across the south coast and some western parts. Sunshine elsewhere, and with that sunshine and more of a southerly airflow, we're going to see temperatures rise. In fact, what will be most notable is the rising humidity later this week, which could spark some thundery downpours.
Heavy showers first thing will be followed by a warm, cosy day. Boxed boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good evening, this is the latest AI travel news from GBNews.com. In Glasgow, motorists should be cautious due to surface water affecting driving conditions. The M4 westbound is closed from junction 41 to 43 for maintenance, with diversions in place. A road incident on the A19 northbound in North Yorkshire is causing a 20-minute delay. A broken down vehicle on the A14 eastbound in Cambridgeshire between junction 35 and 36 has led to lane closures. And on the trains, Chiltern Railways report major disruptions between High Wycombe and Haddenham and Thames Parkway, Aylesbury, and cross-country services may be affected by industrial action. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
We're kick-starting summer with your chance to win our biggest cash prize to date, as there's an incredible £54,321 in tax-free cash to be won. What would you spend it on? A brand new car, the holiday of a lifetime, or just sit back, relax and remove some of those day-to-day financial stresses? For a chance to win £54,321 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message.